Welcome to Lesson 5 of Unit 3, Make It Go. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, what must happen in order to change the direction or speed of a toy? Students will explain the differences between a push and pull through demonstration, exploration, and illustration. They will figure out that changing the strength or direction of the force on an object changes the object's motion. In the Engage, remind the class of the last couple of lessons when they discussed the difference between a push and a pull and investigated different ways to make toys move. Explain that they are going to investigate how to change that movement created by a push or pull. Start by discussing and defining position as an object's location or where it is, and that they must be able to describe location when talking about moving objects. Have students get their toy from home or use toys from the previous lessons. Demonstrate relative position and then have students model these positions using their own toys. Examples include underneath, on, between, beside, next to, in, behind, and above. Model for them how to describe position and the ways you move the toy. Choose a toy from the kit or one that you have brought. Ask students, when I push the toy hard, what happens? When I pull the toy slowly, what happens? Demonstrate pushing and pulling the toy with different force, showing fast and slow. Then model what has to happen in order for the toy to change direction. Have students make comparisons about how different relative strengths of pushes and pulls affect how an object moves. For example, students might say that when an object is pushed harder, it moves faster and farther than when it is pushed slowly. Students can also make observations about the position of the toy. For this lab, you will need 1 roll of colored tape and 6 matchbox cars from your mySci kit. Students will need 1 copy of Student Journal page 10. Choose a starting and finish line for each group, then use the tape to mark them. Separate students into 6 groups, providing each with a matchbox car to use in their speed exploration. Students will explore how the strength of a push or pull can move an object through a distance. Show students the starting line and different finishing lines for the matchbox cars. Explain that they are to experiment with different forces and strengths of pushes and pulls to make their car get as close to each finish line as possible. Demonstrate starting at the start line and pushing or pulling the car to get it to reach the first finish line. You may want to note that students may need to do multiple trials to get their toy close to the line. As they are completing trials, have them draw pictures of their results on student page 10 shown here. An example is completed on teacher page 15 shown here. Once students have made their toy reach one finish line, challenge them to reach another finish line. Point out that the toys might be traveling at different speeds. Ask students why this might happen. If student toys do not reach the finish lines with a simple push or pull, challenge them to create a solution that will help move their toys further. For example, students might try creating a ramp with books to increase the distance that their toys travel. For this lab, you will need the same student groups, starting and finish line setup as in the previous exploration. Students will use the toy cars in this lab to explore how to use a force to change direction. Acknowledge that when students pushed or pulled the toys, they moved in only one direction. Then challenge students to try to make their toy change direction. What would they have to do? Have students work with partners and take turns changing direction with their objects and describing the movements. Guide students to realize that a force is needed to stop and change direction of objects. In the Explain, ask a few students to describe and demonstrate the different ways they moved the toys. Record any new movement words on the chart paper titled, How Things Move. Revisit the book. Give it a push, give it a pull. Reading pages 12 through 19. See the Teacher Read Aloud guide, shown here on teacher page 7. Reiterate that students can change direction of an object after they have already used a force to move it. Then have them demonstrate pushing their toy forward and pulling it backward. Ask them what they had to do in order to change direction. they should say that they may have to apply a push or a pull in a different direction. If they don't point out that they can stop the toy by using a force, be sure to explain that for them. Then, point out that students can move their toys with different amounts of force. Have students demonstrate a hard, then soft push, and hard, then soft pull. Ask students how would they describe what happens to a toy when they push or pull it. What is the difference between these movements? What word do we keep talking about when we talk about a movement? Have students turn and talk, then share out a few answers. Be sure students understand that force is a recurring concept. If necessary, explaining that a force is something that is needed whenever something else moves. Whether it is being pushed, pulled, stopped, or changing directions, a force is needed. Then direct students to the second page of Changing Speed, student page 11, shown here. Support students by reading each question or sentence stem on this page or modeling how to answer these questions. The last question asks students to describe how to make a toy stop or change direction. A teacher key is provided here on teacher page 16. In the Elaborate, show students this video, Thomas and Friends, Push Me, Pull You. This video is about 7 minutes long. After the movie, ask the class questions about pushes and pulls they observed in the video. Do Thomas and his friend pull or push the trains? Why did Thomas's friend slide into the pond? How might the train in the movie have avoided crashing into the other trains or crashing into the pond? When objects touch or collide, like when one train crashed into other trains, they push on one another and change motion. Demonstrate for students a collision of two toys and have students describe the motion of each one. Next, pass out the ping pong balls and marbles from Lesson 3. Ask students, what happens when these balls collide like the trains did? Give students a chance to carry out this investigation and find out what they observe. Encourage them to pay attention to the cause and effect of the balls changing direction each time they try to push the balls toward each other. The cause of the motion is the collision, and the effect is often a change in motion, whether speed or direction. In the Evaluate, ask students to pick one toy for this demonstration. They should show you a pull and a push, a hard pull, a soft push, a change in direction, a collision, and a change in force that changes the speed or direction of the object. When they are demonstrating each movement, ask them to explain what they are doing, how it demonstrates this motion, and point out the cause and effect. While you are checking in with individual students, have the other students completing the position activity shown here on student page 12. A key for this page is provided on teacher page 17. By the end of this lesson, students will demonstrate that any motion is caused by a force and show that objects can change position, direction, or speed when they are pushed or pulled.